Welcome to the Movies of the Damn podcast. My name is Kyle Grant, and I'm sitting here, as always, with my friend and published horror author, John Hunt. If you enjoy what you hear here today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Instagram and Twitter, @DamnMovies. Email us any questions, comments, and suggestions to moviesofthedamned@gmail.com. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Today, we'll be discussing Tobe Hooper's 1974 film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The movie follows a group of friends as they travel to visit an old family homestead. After finding it, the group stumbles upon another house in search of a swimming hole and run into Leatherface. Leatherface then begins killing the group one by one with his chainsaw. In the end, Sally is the only one who's able to escape as she's saved by a passing pickup truck. John, opening thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, so I suggest this one. Well, actually, no, that's not correct. Ethan suggested this one. He has this on Blu-ray.
Okay.
So he thought we should watch it. And last time I watched it was a long time ago. I watched it on VHS. Wait, that's incorrect. I did watch it again with Ethan on Blu-ray. But watching it again this time on Netflix, I was remembering when the first time I watched it and it was on VHS. And I remember that you could not see anything. The film was just, the VHS, when you watch it so often, the quality degrades. So it was like, and the movie was very dark anyways, right? So you couldn't see anything on the screen. So watching it on the Blu-ray, it was really nice. Or sorry, Netflix and Blu-ray. It was really nice because you could actually see everything. So I like it when they restore it that way. And although there is a good feel for the analog of the VHS, but when I remember watching it, you couldn't see anything.
I have nothing to compare it to because I had never seen this movie before.
Really, eh?
I've never seen this. I've watched the remake and the sequel and the prequel and
you
all
saw
that.
the remake?
Yeah,
okay.
I've seen all the newer versions of it.
Okay.
I just never went back and watched the original.
Okay. And how do you think it held up?
I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think it was anything extraordinary. Back in 74. It was probably amazing.
Yeah.
But it was just a little bit different. Like, things just caught my eye throughout. Like, I just noticed that, like, for the scenes, like, there wasn't nearly as much gore as if, like, it was coming out today.
Yes.
So it's just kind of like things.
Well, yeah, the remake, it had
tons of gore.
Yeah, exceptional amounts of gore.
Yeah,
right?
and so that's, I guess, what I was used to. And then, so just kind of seeing this, it kind of just like threw me off a little bit almost.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it was an all right movie. Like, I'm gonna say, like, I'm gonna give it a favorable review. I'll give it a thumbs up. Yeah. But it's like, it's not nearly up there on like my favorites or anything like that.
Okay, I agree with certain concepts. I can't even talk concepts. So, overall, like, if you're looking at the film overall, what was the purpose of it? It was a horror film. Was it horror? For sure. But would it be well crafted or well written by today's standards? Absolutely not. But at the same time, it was responsible for a lot of what horror we see today, and in the 80s and in the 90s. Like, there's a lot of things this movie introduced that carried through.
And I would agree with that. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there when you say, like, this wasn't anything, like, special writing-wise, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, like, I had seen the remake, so I knew what was coming.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of, like, it doesn't have you guessing. It's, like, these kids are destined to run into Leatherface.
Yeah.
And he's going to kill them.
Yeah.
And it's, like, that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
Yes. So we've talked about this before. I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan nerd, and that's because Jason as a kid scared the crap out of me, and you're always fascinated by what you fear, right? So I would say some of the first Friday the 13th, looking at all of them in totality, I think that one was probably the best well written because it had like a unique twist on it, right? With the mother being a killer. And a lot of the practical special effects were really cool, actually.
And it's obviously the one that started it all, so
Yeah,
it's the most original.
Yeah, for that standpoint. But I'm just getting back to the writing aspect. I thought the Halloween Michael Myers writing was very well done. I thought that whole script was well done. Like I think
that one had you guessing.
Yeah, and it's like, so a lot of times you'll think, okay, well, a movie been written in 1970s and filmed in the 1970s would not hold up today's standards for that very reason, because it's today's standards, and we've been exposed to more. We're albeit through news or other movies or whatever, you get desensitized, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But I would say that really doesn't matter in this context, because it wasn't really that well written, right? I don't think it was. However, it did have some very interesting scenes and some very, I think, powerful scenes that carried on and made it what it was, right? So made it spawn sequels and made it so interesting to people that they needed to remake it, right? And all those things. I think there's a lot of powerful images in this, and some good diamonds in the rough concepts in here.
The one that always gets me when you're talking about a powerful image, the meat hook thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you see her hanging from the meat hook,
yeah,
like that's one that always gets me. And you're right. I've seen it in so many movies since then.
Yeah,
and every time it always gets to me.
It's a terrible thing.
I couldn't imagine something like that happening to me.
And in the remake, it was the boyfriend who got thrown up on the meat hook, right?
Yeah.
And after his leg was hacked off with the chainsaw. So
yeah.
That was quite, for me, that was quite powerful. Like when I saw that remake, I was like, oh my God, like it was quite, for me, quite gruesome, I thought. But yeah, but that being said, like I think this film, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think it was very well shot. Like some of the scenes were like, so like, when the van pulls up in front of that old house, right, the one they have to visit for some reason.
Yeah, the old family homestead.
Yeah, it's very odd. Like, why are they so fixated on this? It doesn't make sense, but they all go there and they all make it a big point of it to go there. I don't get it. And then they walk around there and then, hey, I don't know. Anyways, it just, I know it puts them in the place near that other family farm, right? So I get like they had to get them there, but I think there could have been better motivation to actually bring them there. But
and it didn't have to take 30 minutes.
No.
Like the first 30 minutes of this movie was pretty slow.
Well, there's the weirdo in the van.
The hitchhiker scene was interesting,
Yeah.
but other than that, it was really slow getting them to when they first run into Leatherface.
Okay, I'd say somewhat slow, but I think that hitchhiker thing was alleviated some of that slowness, I would say.
No, okay, I'll agree with you.
But all I mean is that, so when that van pulls up to the house, like in that one shot, you see the new van, the house hidden by trees, and it's off the road. So what do you know from that one shot? It's an isolated old house, and if they need help, they're not getting it. I like those shots.
Okay.
Right? So then
tells you a lot right there.
Tells you a lot with one shot, right? And it's not moving around. It's kind of nice. And then later on when the first guy runs into Leatherface, which was a pretty powerful scene, I thought.
Yeah.
Gets hit with the hammer, he falls down, and his body twitches. Like that, you never saw that until then. Like that was a very powerful scene, because a lot of times people just get, even in some of the horrors from the 80s, like
or the old war movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was like, you get touched with a knife, oh, they're dead, right? Like it was totally different, and it was very powerful that way. But then, the girl's sitting on the swing, and then she goes to walk up to the house, and they have the low camera angle coming from behind, and she's walking up there, and the guy was just killed in there, and they have a wide angle shot. I thought it was a great film. It captured you. Like it just, okay, don't look away because you're going to miss something. That's how fast Leatherface attacked the other guy.
And this is one of those movies where you have to be like fixated on the screen watching, or you're right, you will miss things.
You will miss it because it's so fast. And I found that from what I've read and from what I've seen, like that's real life. Real life is not slow.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Right. So I thought that was very effective, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So, but the hitchhiker thing I thought was a little off.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
And then like I guess right after it kind of turned me off a little bit. So like the hitchhiker's there, he like cuts himself,
Yeah.
and then he cuts the
Franklin.
the paraplegic or no
He wasn't paraplegic.
no the fellow in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And then the fellow in the wheelchair, what's his name again?
Franklin.
Oh, he's complaining is like, oh, his blood's all over this knife, so gross. And then the next scene, he's using the knife to like pick at his nails again.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on here?
He was an annoying character.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? He was really annoying. I didn't like him at all, actually. That being said, like when they got to the family homestead, which was, his family homestead as well, right? These friends of his, it wasn't their family homestead.
They're way more interested than he is.
Well, they were all in the house and they left him down there. So,
Yeah.
And then they're all having fun upstairs. And like he does that little temper tantrum thing in the house where he's like,
and he's like talking to himself. It's like,
Yeah.
Franklin, come on, it'll be fun. Blah, blah, blah.
yeah, like, and I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous. And he was a hard character to like,
For sure.
But the one thing I didn't like about the hitchhiker scene is that it served no purpose other than to set you up for a weirdness of the tale. You had no idea he was a part of that house. You had really no idea why he was in that scene at all.
No.
There's no real reason other than I don't even know. Like it was just to set up a weirdness scene, but you don't know that they're going to run into him later.
And it didn't really add anything.
I don't think it added anything at all. I did like the opening scene though, like when they're pulling back from the grave robbing thing.
Yeah.
I did like that. I thought that was very well done with the snapshots and stuff like that. Like, if that's the opening scene of any movie, I'm interested, right? So I thought that was also well done. There were a lot of well done aspects to it, but the writing, I would say, was not one of them. That's all.
No, and I can't argue with you at all. And just to go on what you were saying before about how there was some really well done stuff, there's a couple really good jump scares.
Yeah, for sure.
Remember when the girl pops out of the freezer?
Oh yeah.
Oh my
That was
gosh,
really
buddy,
good.
that got me
That
for
was
sure,
really good,
right?
yeah.
And then there was kind of a couple gross out things too.
Yeah.
Like when they wheel Grandpa down and
Yeah.
then they cut her finger and he starts like, at first I thought he was just like a dead body they were
Yeah.
propping up, but
Yeah.
then when he starts like slurping her blood, I'm
I
like,
know.
oh my gosh.
I know.
But it wasn't like crazy over the top like a Hostel type thing. It was
No.
just like this is a weird messed up family. Like I felt that it fit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a gross out thing.
Yeah, and just think of that scene itself, how many movies it influenced, and
Oh,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like, this is such a hugely influential film, and that certainly cannot be ignored. Or I'm not trying to take away from any of that stuff, right? But just some of the stuff was like I said, was pretty annoying. Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think only one person was killed with a chainsaw, and that was Franklin.
Now that you mention it, I think you're right. I can't say 100%, but I
So
think you're right.
boyfriend-
But he did have it a ton, right?
Well, his cardio for a heavy guy was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, there's no like.
I never thought of it like that, but you're so right.
Well, like he's carrying this chainsaw that's like I would say half his height in length.
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Running after this girl, who's much slimmer and in better shape than he is.
Only has one accident throughout the entire film.
Yeah, only has one accident throughout the entire film, and she's only ever maybe 10 feet in front of him.
Yeah.
And he chases her for probably 15 minutes. Like
Yeah.
that's
With very
pretty-
little rest, yeah.
Yeah, like that's no, right? Like this guy's gassed. He's like hugging his knees. He's turning off the chainsaw. He's asking for help, right? He's not. There's no way he has this cardio.
No, you're absolutely right. And so, like, I think my favorite part of this movie is kind of like that dinner scene.
Yeah.
And I know that neither of us loved the initial hitchhiker scene, but
Yeah.
I did love his acting in that dinner scene.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Like, he hit
Yeah.
that out of the park.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I firmly believe, like, he was mentally ill. Like, he was a legit crazy person
Oh,
in
for
that,
sure.
in that scene there.
For sure. No, he did a great job.
And then when they have the grandpa with the club, it's like, Grandpa, you should do it.
I know.
I'm like, this is disturbing.
That was
man.
once again, a very good scene. And think of how influential that was. Like, there's so many influential parts of this film that it's crazy. They get the last surviving female heroine, right? You have all that stuff. It's and you see it almost in every film since. Like, it's usually the woman that lives at the end. Like, not always, obviously, but 98% of the times in horror films in the 80s, it was always the virgin woman that lived at the end, right?
And she this wasn't a fluke. She earned it.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
think she jumped out of 2 glass windows.
She did. I was just about to bring that up. That was amazing. Like, this girl is BA. This guy was like so close behind her.
Yeah.
She just looks back once and jumps out of a window from the second story. And you know when you see that again? In Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the exact same scenario. Jason chases her up the stairs, gonna grab her or kill her with something or whatever. She looks at him, looks at the window, jumps right out the window.
You got to do what you got to do to survive, but like that takes some guts.
Oh, I thought that was brilliant. And then she took her for a while to get up off of that because it was quite a fall. Quite a drop to the ground.
Oh no, for sure, right? And then it is a movie for sure.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was pretty wild. Twice through the window.
Yeah.
Now, John, the ending.
Yes.
What did you think of that? Like, to me, it felt like the movie was like really building at that point, obviously, and then it was one of those just like very abrupt, done. Any issues with that? Like, did you have those same feelings or no?
No, this is what I thought when I was watching that. So you remember the hitchhiker scene at the very beginning?
Yeah.
And they kick him out of the van.
Yep.
And they're all afraid of him. And he's like hitting the van. Why does it take so long for them to accelerate away? Like, they're like so slow. Like, the guy's like... Oh,
well, they had to give him time to smear his blood on the side of the van, right?
I was just like, this is so odd, right? Like, you would hit the gas and you'd go away so fast. Like, I know why, because the director wanted to show, how crazy this is or whatever the case may be. But to me, it detracted from the realism, right? Like, you just got this guy who carved up your friend in the back of a van out. He's chasing after you. Put your foot on the gas, man. Get going, right? Same thing at the end with the pickup truck. How far did a Leatherface with his amazing cardio and chainsaw chase after this pickup truck before it accelerated away?
No, you're right. You're right.
He's like almost catching up to it. Like, that's what I thought of. I didn't really think of the abrupt ending.
And then he's like swinging the
doing
chainsaw around
dance.
like he's doing like a baton routine or something like that. I don't know.
Well, he's not all there, so I don't really care too much about that.
He's not even close to all there.
So I don't really care about his strange reaction to her getting away. I don't really mind that.
Yeah.
I don't care. Did you want more of what happened afterwards?
I just thought there was going to be a little bit more closure at the end, but it was just kind of just like done.
Well, the closure for me was her getting away.
Yeah, no,
right?
I guess, right? Like the movie's called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and with her leaving, the massacre's over.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Something that just popped in my head that I just want to rewind for a second. I know neither of us loved the hitchhiker scene.
Yeah.
But I did laugh, like literally laugh out loud when he takes that crappy photo and then he wants $2.
Yeah, he wants money for it.
Or something like that. It's just like a picture of nothing. Yeah. Like he's like, no, this is a good picture, man. I just thought that was pretty funny.
Well, another thing I wanted to bring up was like when they're at the gas station there and they were telling him, okay, there's no gas in the pumps, which is odd in itself. But then at the same, so you're thinking, okay, maybe this guy wants to keep him around. But then
to sell them some barbecue.
I know, right? Here, have some barbecue. But then in the same breath, he's telling them not to go to that old homestead.
Yeah.
So he's like the creepy, weird dude that warns them away.
Which has been in 1 million movies.
Yeah, right. So I really like how influential this movie was. Like, when I'm watching it again, because I've watched it a few times, but when I watched it again recently for this podcast, and after all the years of me watching horror movies, and typically I'm a slasher fan first. The other horror movies are also really great, but if I were to pick a favorite subgenre in horror, it would be slasher films. So if I see these, I've seen this influence through countless films. All the influences in this film.
And just to speak to that, one of the articles that I read about this film is that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is credited with originating several elements common in the slasher genre, including the use of power tools as murder weapons, the characterization of the killer as a large, hulking, faceless figure, and the killing of victims. Now, I thought that last one was a little weird. You're telling me that before this, you didn't really see the victims get killed in movies?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, that's an interesting point. Like, I don't know what movies would classify before this one in 1974. If you're looking at Psycho, that was before, and she got killed in the shower.
Yeah, so I was like, the first couple I agreed with, like use of power tools, the big figure, but then the The killing of victims? I'm like, huh? Really?
Yeah, I don't even know if that's true about the big hulking. There's some older films that were kind of messed up,
Oh, okay.
but that didn't get the obvious circulation.
And so that maybe that's why they're saying that this one is credited with it.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's
where it's
accurate.
not necessarily the first, but it's the one that really pushed
Okay,
the
yeah.
slashers.
No, that
way.
makes sense. That's accurate. Yeah, I would say that's true.
A couple cool facts I found out about this one is that in February 1976, 2 theaters in Ottawa, Canada, were advised by local police to withdraw the film, or they would face morality charges. How wild is that?
That's pretty wild, actually.
As well, the film was marketed as being based on true events to attract a wider audience. Although the character of Leatherface and minor story details were inspired by the crimes of murderer Ed Gein,
yeah,
its plot is largely fictional. So it's kind of a bit of a cheap trick, right?
It was a cheap trick. So Ed Gein, they believe killed his mother. He used to rob graveyards, which is what they had at the very beginning, and he used to make lamps and furniture in his house out of human skin and human bones, right? So that's what he did. I could be incorrect about this, but I don't remember him ever making clothes out of human skin or faces out of human skin, which is what you'll see later in Silence of the Lambs, right? But yeah, so definitely influenced by Ed Gein, but definitely not true at all. But
no,
it was
because that killer also inspired Silence of the Lambs too,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So Silence of so Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, he was inspired by Ed Gein. There's a couple more that
it's kind of like an amalgamation of different
Ted
people,
Bundy
right?
because of the broken arm, how he got her into the van.
But I could just imagine like in the 70s going to see this movie and being like hearing that it was a true story, and just like your jaw would be on the floor, right?
Well, it does up the tension, right? You're like, this really happened.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's one of those things where it does seem to work, and when it's true, you actually want to go see it. It's like, wow. I don't even know. It's like, I guess the human mentality of watching a train wreck, right, or a car crash. Like everyone slows down to see if someone was hurt. Why? You know what I mean?
Even though because people will complain about everyone slows down, and then you would just instinctively do it yourself.
Yeah. You want to see carnage. I don't know why, but it's part of the DNA, I guess.
No, for sure. Critics, Rotten Tomatoes, 88.
Okay.
Audience score 82.
Yeah.
Where are you with that?
So it depends on what we're judging it on, right? So if we're talking about critical influence, shot placement, because I think this was very well filmed. I have nothing bad to say about director's use of shots or shot selection. I thought that was very well done. But if we're looking at influential in the whole horror genre, like this thing's in the 90s.
Okay.
Right? But if we're talking about
like a movie itself?
Yeah, the movie itself, the substance of it, I'd be in like the 75 to 80 range.
Yeah, I might be in the high 60s.
Yeah.
But I can't argue with you about how influential it was. It didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
It just didn't speak to me, and like that's something that's hard to evaluate or hard to quantify, but it just didn't.
Okay, but when you're watching it, do you remember what parts turned you off?
I don't know, like just like that there seemed to be no surprises to me. Like I knew what was going to happen. I knew where this was going. Like I like it didn't have me guessing. But
you've seen the remake and everything.
I have, right?
Yeah.
So perhaps that's not fair for me to say that, right?
Yeah,
but it just like felt from the beginning this group is doomed to meet Leatherface and they're going to get killed.
Know what's funny about that? Because what gave you that impression was all the horror movies that you've watched.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this was one of the first of those horror movies.
You're right. You're right. So maybe I'm being a little too harsh on this one, right?
Well, I don't know. No. Your reaction is your reaction. I don't care, right? That's what you feel about it. That's fine. I thought some of the acting was a little flat. But you read about it later, and it was done with a smaller budget, and he had local actors, or like not local actors, just not professional actors.
Well, because he didn't have a huge budget.
Yeah, right. So he didn't have a huge budget. So, so you can forgive that, right? Because I don't know if I can forgive Franklin. He really annoyed me for some reason. But
his facial expressions were ridiculous.
Well,
too.
he just seemed like over the top with everything that he did, right?
Yeah.
So just like, hey Franklin, how's it going? Well, I don't know. Right?
Yeah,
You're like, hey man, just say I don't know, or everything's okay. He just seemed a little too much.
No,
right?
and I agree with you.
Not that I should be judging anyone's acting, because
Neither of us can act,
right?
but we
I'm
can
terrible
still
at it.
criticize pro actors. This movie was made for $140K,
Yeah.
and based on inflation, it'd be about $700K nowadays.
Yeah.
It brought in $30.9 million.
There you go.
With inflation, that turns into $150 million.
That's a good return, right?
Oh, huge, right? And the cool thing was, for 8 years after the release, every year annually, it was put back into first-run theaters. And
really?
people still went to go and see it. Yeah, that's
Wow.
how popular this was. This thing inspired tons of movies, as you kind of already mentioned.
Yeah.
There have been seven sequels, prequels, and remakes
Yeah.
based on this. One cool thing that I read about this is that even though the budget was small, they still had issues financing this movie. So at one point, they asked Bill Parsley, who was a friend of the director Hooper, to provide funding, and Parsley formed a company named MAB Inc., through which he invested $60K into the production. In return, he then owned 50% of the film and its profits.
Oh, wow.
And so with that, production manager Rob Bozeman told most of the cast and the crew that he would have to defer part of their salaries until after it was sold to a distributor. And then Vortex made the idea more attractive by awarding them a share of its potential profits. So each actor got anywhere from 0.25 to 6%, kind of similar to mortgage points.
Holy cow.
But here's the problem. Since this MAB owned 50%, when he said, "Hey, John, you're getting 6, it really meant you're only getting 3. And so the actors didn't find that out until later. So just a kind of a little bit of an underhanded trick right there.
It is. Oh, my God. People are weird about money.
Oh, but I guess it's one of those things where, like, when you are in the shoes of this filmmaker, like, you're, like, literally, like, doing whatever you can to make this work,
sure.
to finish it,
For
to get it
sure.
out there, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm sure, like, 6% to 3%, when it's this much of a success, I'm sure they're happy with the payoff.
So, like, when you look at the return on investment percentage-wise, like, it would have been crazy. Like, so good for them. Like, I think the actors would have done well enough, like, a lot better than, because normally, like, you get paid for that film and then you're done.
For an independent film, you're usually not making anything.
Yeah, right. So I think that's a good turnout for them, I think.
For sure. Well, buddy, anything else to add on this one?
No, I just can't understate enough how influential I think this film was for future horror films and for the genre in itself. And so all the sequels that spawned. You know what I found funny, though? I remember, I forget which one it was, but Dennis Hopper and Matthew McConaughey were in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Yes,
sequel.
they were.
I was like, well, that's crazy to me when you think about it now, right? Like, I know a lot of really good actors come from horror films, but usually they're from like a relatively good horror film, right?
Yeah.
But the sequel that they were in, I don't think was good at all.
Well, I think this one, like, I can't tell you for sure, but my gut instinct tells me that this is the best reviewed of any of the movies, right?
Yeah.
I do remember, though, this one scene in one of the prequels where I can't remember who the character was, but it was like the uncle or the grandpa. In one of the remakes, he was in a wheelchair,
Mm-hmm.
and in one of the prequels, it shows that, like, he did walk, but then he took, like, a chainsaw to the leg or something.
Oh.
And then at one point, another character tells Leatherface, "Go even him out, boy." And then he cuts his other leg off. For some reason, that just stuck with me, and it just, like, freaks me out, that type of thing.
That's a pretty good line then.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's just something that stuck with me.
Yeah. So other than that, I have nothing to add.
Perfect. Well, folks, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Facebook page, and please follow us on both Twitter and Instagram @DamnMovies. We want to hear what you thought of today's podcast and any suggestions you have, especially in terms of what movies you would like us to discuss next. Send us an email to moviesthedamned@gmail.com. Please also check out John's full-length novels. His first 2 novels, Dollhouse and The Tracker, are Amazon bestsellers. You can also order his novella Balance, his book of short stories, 4 Shots of Horror, and his newest novel, Off the Grid, on Amazon right now. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great week. Be kind to everyone. And if you get a chance, just leave a rating on our podcast on Apple or Spotify or what one you like. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it. Thank you.